Hi everyone, I'm Lorraine from Simply English Edinburgh. Welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to look at a grammar phenomenon called inversion or subject-verb inversion, and we are going to look at what causes it, or at least some of the reasons that cause inversion, when we can use it in our exams or in our everyday writing, and we're going to look at some examples as well. So let's get started. First of all, what is inversion? Well, if we take a regular sentence like, I have never swum in the sea in Scotland, and that's true by the way, you can see it follows the traditional word order of subject, verb, object, I being the subject, have swum, in this case have never swum. So we've got our verbs coming next and our adverb of time there in the middle, and then we've got our objects coming next in the sea in Scotland. Now if we take that negative adverb of time, in this case never, and we move it to the beginning of the sentence, that will cause the subject and the verb to invert. Never have I swum in the sea in Scotland. Now, one of the reasons we are doing this is to add emphasis for a little bit of dramatic effect, and just in terms of your writing to show off a little bit more flexibility of the word order. So if you are taking a C1 level exam, it's really nice to be able to show off some flexibility in your writing. And these are, things that also come up quite a lot in part 4 of the keyword transformations in the use of English part of the exam as well. So it's worth watching out for those. So if we look, for example, at the structure, how we organize it, well, as we said, we've got a negative adverb at the beginning of the sentence, and then we've put have. Okay, now that means it's easy to do inversion if you are using your perfect tenses, like your present perfect, past perfect, etc., because you will have has, have, or had readily available to come after the negative adverb. However, if you are using a simple tense like I never shop online, okay, you don't have an auxiliary verb, and what you need to do in that case is you will use do. So I never shop online, never do I shop online. So where you don't have an auxiliary or a modal verb perhaps readily available, you can use do in its place. So let's look at some other negative adverbs which can cause inversion. We've already seen an example with never. Never have I swum in the sea in Scotland. Another example of a negative adverb causing inversion is seldom. Okay, so for instance, I seldom shop at the weekend because it's too busy. Okay, and in that case you would put the negative adverb first. Seldom do I shop at the weekend because it's too busy. Okay, that's another example where we did not have an auxiliary verb available, so we needed to use do instead. Rarely is another example of a negative adverb. So we have rarely travelled by ferry. Rarely have we travelled by ferry. And in that case we could use have because it was a present perfect tense. Hardly ever also causes inversion when you move it to the beginning of the sentence. So we hardly ever see each other. Hardly ever do we see each other. And the last example I'm going to give you today with a negative adverb is scarcely. Okay, I had scarcely got off the bus when it crashed. Scarcely had I got off the bus when it crashed. Okay, so all of these negative adverbs, when you place them at the beginning of the sentence, they will cause the subject and the verb to invert. So really nice for showing off flexibility in your writing. It sounds a little bit more formal, but it also puts a lot of emphasis. So rather than, I've never swum in the sea in Scotland, never have I swum in the sea in Scotland, it sounds more dramatic, and it is a dramatic example because the sea in Scotland is really cold. So let's look at some more cases when we would use inversion. Now, one of my favourites is under no circumstances, because I think it's a really useful expression for your essay writing. I've got some students jumping to mind that are huge fans of using this in their writing. I think it works really well. You use this when you want to say that something cannot happen. It is completely not allowed. It is forbidden. Under no circumstances can we break lockdown rules. Under no circumstances do we tolerate theft in this shop. Under no circumstances are you permitted to leave without permission. Okay, so there are some examples where I'm putting the verb after under no circumstances, and you can see that this is quite often used with a modal verb coming next. So, keep in mind this: under no circumstances can you, meaning you are definitely not allowed to do something. The next one I think is really useful in your review writing, because in your review writing you need to be very descriptive, so you're going to be using like a lot of adjectives, and this structure is not only but also. So when you want to mention two particular points, you want to highlight two things, you can use this structure. So not only was the hotel dirty, but also far from the beach. Not only was the food bland, but also undercooked. Not only was she rude, but also arrogant. Okay, so again, for review writing, I think this is really good. And this is something that could even quite easily be incorporated into perhaps part 4 of the speaking, where you're having a little bit of discussion with the examiner. The next one is no sooner had than. Now, I'm actually teaching it to my students literally as no sooner had than in that structure, because that helps you, or you've already inverted the verb by putting the had in place directly after no sooner, which makes it a little bit easier to learn. And in this case, what you're doing is you are talking about two past events, okay, two completed actions in the past. One action has happened directly, like just before the other one. And I think it's really useful because we often use it to show some sort of misfortune, whereby if you had done the action just a little bit earlier, your luck might have changed, things might have worked out a little bit differently for you. So for instance, no sooner had I sent the email than I saw my mistake. It's a case of like you send the email and then straight away it's like, oh my God, that is a huge mistake in it. So no sooner had I sent the email than I saw the mistake. Okay, no sooner had I arrived than the party ended. Okay, it's like you've wasted your time going there. Or no sooner had I bought the gift than we had an argument and I decided not to give it to him. Okay. And finally, today what we're going to look at is only in this way. And this is showing that someone had no other option but to do this action. Okay. So for instance, if you said, okay, this guy didn't have a job, so he decided to rent out his flat on Airbnb, and this was the only way he could make money. Okay, so if you put only in this way in the middle of the sentence, it will cause the second part of the clause an inversion. Okay, so he rented out his flat on Airbnb. Only in this way could he earn a living. Okay, or she followed a really strict diet for a few weeks. Only in this way could she lose weight. I decided to plan my videos really carefully. Only in this way can I upload once a week. Okay, so again, it's showing that you have no other option but to do something. And again, articles I think could be quite interesting, essays as well. You will be able to show off some of this grammar. So I hope you have found this video interesting and useful. Definitely inversions will help to boost your writing mark, but also be aware that they do come up quite commonly in the use of English section of your exam in part 4. So get comfortable, get confident with them. As always, there will be more examples at the end of this video. And if you have found it useful, you'd like to see some more, like, subscribe and leave me a comment below letting me know what you think. Thanks so much.